Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the FY27 Budget and Override Public Forum for March 26th, 2026. I'm also going to call the Select Board meeting to order because all five of us are here tonight. I don't know if you want to open the meeting.
The school committee to order. We have a quorum as well.
Okay. So thank you to everyone who is here joining us either in Town Hall. We also have a bunch of people joining us virtually on Zoom tonight. This event is being co-sponsored by both the Select Board and the school committee, and being recorded and live streamed by WACA tonight. So thank you to our friends at WACA for being here this evening. I also wanted to let you all know that we are recording this separately on Zoom, mostly for the transcript because the Q&A section, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but we want to make sure that we have captured all the questions and answers so we can put it out on the web later on. So thank you. I am Brandy Kinsman from the Select Board, and I'll be moderating the forum tonight. And joining me, I just want to introduce the folks that are here at the table with me. Starting from everyone else's left is Jim Adams, the Superintendent of Ashland Public Schools, Lori Tosti, the Chair of the School Committee, Paul Kendall from School Committee, Claudia Bennett from the Select Board, and our Town Manager, Michael Herbert, all the way over there. So I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get things started. So we've scheduled this forum for 2 hours tonight. We'll have brief presentations by Mr. Adams and Mr. Herbert, but the majority of the time is really for us to hear from all of you. So we have a ton of time for questions and answers. There's been some questions that have been submitted online in advance, so thank you to everyone who has submitted some questions. So we'll start with those, and then we will open it up to folks here in the room at Town Hall and also on Zoom for any questions or comments that people want to share. To ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak, we will limit everyone to 3 minutes each at the microphone. If we have time after the first round and there's still questions, we are happy to have everyone come up and take a second round and have another 3 minutes. So, sound good? Okay. All right, let's get started. So the agenda tonight. First, I'll talk a little bit about where we are in the budget process and how we have gotten to this place that we are here tonight. Then I'll turn it over to Michael. The town has always taken a very fiscally conservative approach to our finances, and he will walk through ways that we've saved taxpayers kind of millions of dollars over the years, whether it was through proactive changes we've made or programs that we've participated in, or even grants that we've received. Then he will talk through how your tax dollars are spent, so you can understand a little bit about how that works, and also just an understanding of what's really driving the costs that we're seeing, and really the reason that we are all here tonight. Then we will turn it over to Mr. Adams, who will talk about the work that Ashland Public Schools has done internally, and the need really to restructure the district for financial stability going forward. And so then we will move on to Q&A. Okay. So before we get into the numbers tonight, I just wanted to share a quote from my colleague, Claudia Bennett, which I think is appropriate for this evening. A strong, connected community is built in the everyday moments. Neighbors checking in on neighbors, shared spaces that bring us together, and local services and events that make it easy to belong. It's what keeps families supported, seniors less isolated, kids engaged, and volunteers showing up when it matters. When we invest in the places and programs that connect us, we're not funding extras. We're protecting the relationships and quality of life that make Ashland a place people are proud to come to call home. And I think that's really appropriate. I think, so Claudia is a colleague of mine on the Select Board. She's also a retired educator in Ashland. the retired school principal from Mendez Elementary. She's raised her family here in Ashland, and they're raising their families here in Ashland. So it really, I thought that, really as we begin tonight, it's a good reminder of some of our shared values as a community and what makes Ashland just such a special place. And I think that's why all of us up here and all of the other members of both school committee and select board that are in the audience tonight, and all the people that work for the town of Ashland, that's why we serve the community. So, okay, so now let's get into the numbers. Okay, so where are we in the budget process? I know that this is something that probably wasn't on a lot of people's radars until pretty recently, but we've all been talking about this for a really long time. In fact, I think this has probably been just over the horizon brewing for at least the last couple years, and we've talked about it as sort of something that we were seeing that was going to come to a head at some point. So just in the last year alone, we have, as a tri-board, which is select board, school committee, and finance committee, have met 5 times. And really, throughout that whole process, we were trying to understand the issues, trying to find out what the solution is, and also we were just gathering more information. We had a lot of projections, we had a lot of thoughts of what things were going to look like coming into this fiscal year, but we needed some actual data. One of the things we needed was the governor's budget to see where we landed on state aid from a state perspective. We also needed to understand what the projected costs were going to be, what they were going to come in at. And of course, like the needs. So as part of our typical budget process, on the municipal side and on the school side, both go through a whole process of ascertaining the needs and making recommendations as to what we need for a budget for the upcoming fiscal year. And so, the other part that we've also been worried about is sort of what's happening on a bigger scale, what's happening with the federal government, how that might affect grants. So we have been able to look at different options. We've been looking at different scenarios, and things have kind of come a little bit more clearer as the last couple months have gone on. So we've received a lot of public feedback. We've had a lot of public meetings. Our boards have had meetings as well. And we've made some changes. So, we recognize that the rising costs that we all face, like in our own personal budgets, have hit all of us. We see it with, our own healthcare costs. We see it with, at the grocery store with our bills, our crazy utility costs this last winter with gas and electricity. Now the pain at the gas pump, like we know people are pinched. And so we really wanted to create a solution that would meet the needs of the community, but we would minimize the impact to our taxpayers as much as possible. So things have evolved. So we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. So where we did land is that the request that we're coming to the community with is an override request of Proposition 2.5, and we'll talk a little bit about that too, for Ashland Public Schools of $2.75 million. And where that, it equates to approximately $428 of an annual average increase to an average home price assessed value here in Ashland, which is about $737,000, just to kind of give you an idea of the cost that we're estimating. So it estimates it's approximately $36 a month for your average taxpayer. And then on the municipal side, there's critical need on the municipal side as well, specifically for fire, for police, for DPW, for finance. And so initially we had planned to have that as part of the At one point, it was a $3.5 million budget gap. And when we had talked to the community, we knew that it was confusing, the way that we were planning to, sorry, everything's blowing, move that, we were going to utilize the money that was in our operating budget that initially was set aside for the public safety building debt, and we were going to move it out of our operating debt, our operating expenses, and our operating budget, that would be right, and move it into excluded debt, which was going to add money to it was going to impact everyone's taxes by another $100 approximately. Instead, this year, we decided that to simplify it and to minimize the tax impact, we were going to utilize our stabilization fund, which is our rainy day fund. And so the $750,000 will be taken out of the stabilization fund for just this year only, and then we will find a mechanism for on a go-forward basis. So where are we? So we are in the process of these community discussions. Tonight's a really important night for this, and I'm really glad you are all here because this is not just a discussion that is happening in Ashland. I don't know if you guys, there was an article in the Boston Globe 2 days ago that is interesting, that there's like a record number of communities that are having these really tough discussions about overrides and about the budget challenges, because everyone is facing, there's 351 communities, towns and cities in Massachusetts, and I guarantee all 351 are having the exact same conversations we are tonight. And challenges and how they manage those, because the fixed costs have risen to the point of not being able to financially take on the burden that basically it's creating a deficit for all communities. So we are not alone in that. So we are going to be having this discussion for the next 2 months, and I'm glad you guys are all here for this tonight. In preparation for town meeting, which is May 6th, and a ballot town election on May 19th. And so the way an operational override works, it must pass both town meeting and the ballot to move forward. So we're going to be having this discussion for the next couple of months. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to Michael for his slides. Hopefully.
All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, we good? Yeah. That's not what I wanted. Talk amongst yourselves, folks. Get this done. Okay. Folks, as we're going through this, so I just need to share. All right, let's see. This doesn't seem to be working exactly the way I wanted it to. That's okay. Things hardly do they, folks? Not in today's day and age, but It's, as Brandy said, I'd really like to welcome you here and thank you for coming here and listening and participating in this very, very important discussion for our community. For once, I have got the easiest job in the night because I only have to do two things. First of all, I have to convince you that we are good stewards of your tax dollars, and we have been good stewards of your taxpayer dollars. The second thing is that I have to show you that this is a math problem, not a management problem. And so I figured the best way to do this was not to take it from my words and take it from my staff's words or the elected officials. Why don't we go to the independent audits? Why don't we go to agencies like S&P who come in and take a look at our books on behalf of other folks, other interested parties in our finances, and let's see what they have to say, not what I have to say. You might have some issues with what I say, you might not necessarily believe it, and you know, that's your prerogative. But it's going to be really, really hard, I think, to argue with people who are charged with making sure that we're not doing anything wrong on behalf of other folks who are investing tens of millions of dollars into this community. And so I'm just going to give you a snapshot of that. We have saved the taxpayers millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars over the years since we've been here, if you look at the independent audited financial statements. In fact, I'm just going to tell you about three. Changing health insurance, moving to the Group Insurance Commission, and doing an energy savings performance contract. I won't necessarily get into detail, but we made a lot of energy efficiency improvements that saved money. And then we actually financed those through competitive qualified energy conservation bonds, which saved the town billions. Okay. Well, best laid plans, folks. I was on a roll, too. I kind of felt good. That's okay.
Make me sit, so I couldn't stand next to him. All right. Thank you. Can everybody hear me? I know everybody could hear me in here. I just want to make sure, can everybody hear me on Zoom? And just give everybody one. Okay, I'm getting some thumbs up. Okay. So yeah, so just with three initiatives, we saved the taxpayers $16.3 million. Not only that, our town since 2013 has secured $32 million in grants, and that is very conservative. Very conservative. Now, a lot of those funds are restricted funds. And what does that mean, Michael? Restricted means that you can only use it for certain things, generally not operating expenses. And so when people ask us, you know, gosh, you got a financial issue, why are you doing downtown? Why are you doing a sidewalk here? Why are you making all of these improvements? Folks, we're doing it with grant funds. We're doing it with other people's money, not yours, because they need to be made and they enhance our community. And so the smart thing to do is use other people's money, not ours. So again, just with these two things, you're looking at saving taxpayers $48 million over the years. And again, that's very, very conservative. Again, folks, this isn't me saying it. This is the independent auditors. And you know, another agency, and I mentioned it before, that comes in and evaluates our finances are Standard & Poor's. You might have heard of them. You know, S&P 500, all that good stuff. They do things, they rate municipalities' credit. You know, just like Equifax comes in and gives you a credit score and you get alerts every day about something. We go to Standard & Poor's and they say, okay, if you want to go borrow money, we have to evaluate your credit on behalf of investors. And so they come in and they look at everything, our management practices, our economics, our tax base. And this is what they came up with. So first of all, we achieved AAA rating status in 2016. We jumped up 3 bond ratings in 3 years, from 2013, when I started as finance director, to 2016. We went from AA to AA positive to AA plus to AAA. That saves taxpayers millions of dollars because, just like your credit score, the better rating, the better rate. Okay? And then they came in and they do these reports, and we've got them online if you want to check them out. And this is what they said about our management practices. They said, you know, this is just a couple of quotes. Our financial practices are strong, well embedded, likely systematic. We've made it a culture. And then also, management has a record of outperforming the budget through good planning and tight expenditure controls. I didn't say that. These folks didn't say that. S&P said that. And so that's great. Michael, what does that mean for the average taxpayer? What does that mean, right? Good question. And before I go to the next slide and show you what this impact has been on your taxes, I want to let you know, I understand taxes have gone up a lot. And everybody looks at me now and they see, oh, town manager with the high salary, right? And he can easily afford this. And so what about us? And most of you know my story, but I'm not going to get into it. But the thing is, folks, I wasn't always this way. I've been there. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to choose between food or paying your rent or paying your mortgage or paying your taxes. I know what it's like to wonder what the next day is going to look like financially, if you're going to have a roof over your head, literally. Literally. I remember being in my 20s helping my grandparents who didn't have much money talk to the pharmaceutical companies so they could get a lower health care or lower prescription cost so they could afford other things that they needed. They were actually too darn prideful to do it themselves. And I felt a lot of happiness and warmth when I was able to help them. And that helps drive me do what I do today. And that's nice, but what does that mean for you, right? So let me show you. Oops. Sorry, this thing's a little slower than my usual. These are Ashland's tax bills compared to the region, okay? Ashland's on the green line. The peers, again, in our region, and that's 17 other communities, are on the yellow line. So since 2016, when I started, tax bills in this region have gone up 46%. This is the average single-family tax bill. This is right from the Department of Revenue, again, not what I'm saying. And so we've gone up only 38% during that time, an 8% difference. You know, you look at that 2016 mark, the gap between Ashland and the regional average was only $1,300. Today, it's grown to $2,700. So all that stuff I showed you in the other slide, what that means is that that line, that green line, goes up less slowly than everybody else. Or excuse me, more slowly. Thank you, Yolanda. I'm looking at Yolanda's like, I don't think that's right. Thank you. More slowly. So that's how it impacts your taxes, folks. By the way, Jim, you said Google Slides is what you use? Oh, man. You got to show me some tricks here because I'm having a hard time with this. And again, folks, this is the second thing I want to point out, and I think I said it at the beginning. This is a math problem. It's not a management problem. And I'll put it in as simple terms as I can. By law, our tax levy only goes up 2.5%. That's $1.4 million. Okay? Mandated health insurance costs. That's what we've negotiated with our employees. They go up 8.6%, more than 3 times the 2.5%, $775,000. The retirement assessment goes up 8%, $350,000. The Keefe Tech assessment goes up almost $400,000. It went up a lot this year. Folks, these aren't choices. These are things we have to pay. And that adds up to the 2.5% increase. That's before we've added a fire or talked about funding a firefighter or a teacher or anything like that. We have just eaten up with things that we have no choice over our 2.5% increase. Again, folks, it's math. It's just math. $1.4 million, again, that increase. You take out all of our insurance, which is things like property insurance, the increase in that, $800,000. You subtract, again, employee retirement, the pension assessment, that's $352,000. And then Keefe Tech, again, $400,000. It eats all of that up. We do see a little bit of relief with our debt service. That goes down $336,000. But again, when you net all that out, it pretty much takes up all of that 2.5% increase. Again, before we talk about anything else, increase in subscription costs. Everybody knows what that looks like. Increase in fuel costs. Everybody knows what that looks like. We face it too. The biggest irony in government is that when we need the money, you need the money too. I understand that. We understand that. We understand this is a difficult conversation. But again, what we want to show you is that we have been good stewards of your money, and that, again, this is a math problem. And so I'm going to leave it at that, and I will leave plenty of time for questions.
Michael, can you show the slide with the $100 bill with the money coming out of it?
It's not on this one, the one I was able to pull up right now.
Okay.
So, and what we will have, I should point out, we will have all of these up, I believe, on our website.
Yes, we will have all the slides. We'll have a link to the recording of the meeting, and then we will also, we'll talk about it later, but we will have Q&A. All the questions, all the answers that have been submitted, we'll post up on our website, so it's a resource for everybody.
And what Brandy is talking about, just for everybody's information, is we actually took a $100 bill and broke it out. This is what you spend on debt service. This is what you spend on schools. This is what you spend on police and fire, right? And I think a good, if you think about spending and what we spend, the biggest thing we spend our money on are our employees. And so on the municipal end of things, just to help you understand kind of what we're spending our money on, in 2007, we had 118.7 FTEs. That means full-time equivalent employees. So we had one employee per 124 residents. We actually ended up laying off a little over 7 FTEs during that year. And then in 2025, that many years later, the town has grown by 4,000 people, and we have 148.7 FTEs. Actually, that's one employee per 127 residents. We haven't really grown much at all, and I should say the growth in those employees, a lot of those are not on taxpayer funds. You do pay for some of them through fees. A couple of them are paid through grants, but all of them pretty much are not in the general fund. That's because we've been good stewards of your money. So,
Are we ready to transition to Jim?
I just want to make one more point.
Okay. I just want to be cognizant of the time. I want to make sure we have enough time for questions.
I think that's fair enough. Look, I'll keep it brief as much as I can. I've been the town manager here for 10 years. I've been part of your finances for 13. In that time, we went from a AA bond rating to AAA, from rainy day reserves of below 5% to above 10%. from a library on its 7th year of state waivers to a fully accredited branch, from 4 firefighters per shift to 6, able to handle 2 calls at once. We've built a new elementary school and a new public safety building, and we've documented over $16.3 million in budget savings across health insurance, bond financing, and energy contracts. We did all of this without a single operating override. And that's what we're asking for, one operating override. The first one we've asked for in over 12 years. And it's not because we failed, it's because we succeeded. And the cost of maintaining what it is that we built, and I see everybody's heads nodding here, in a world of rising health insurance and rising pension and rising regional costs, now exceeds what that Prop 2.5 increase can cover. This is something that we all built together, folks. And this is something that we're not obligated, but we should have a commitment to protect as well. So I hope this has been helpful. Now I can transition, Brandy. How's that?
Thank you, Michael. Do you want to unshare? Oh, there we go. Okay. All right.
So good evening, everyone. And I'll just start by saying and recognizing the elephant in the room, which is the Ashland Public Schools, right? We're the ones here before you talking about a $2.75 million override and what that can do for the community. And before I get into the slides, and I won't belabor the data that's in here, but I want to say the approach that we have taken as a school committee, that I've taken as a superintendent, is really to look at our financial situation holistically and say, how can we best fix a structural deficit that is going to exist year after year after year and has done so since I've been superintendent for 13 years. And what I'm trying to accomplish and what we're trying to accomplish is to fix this problem moving forward. So instead of using one-time funds to pay for operating costs, which I'll get into in a little bit, making sure we have funds that are available for one-time expenses, that we have those funds. How do we do that? We have to fix the problem we have, and that problem is definitely a revenue problem. It's a revenue problem from the state. It's a revenue problem locally. And yes, I agree with Michael. It's very difficult to ask for more money right now. I get that. What I'm trying to tell you is that I'm not adding positions. We're looking at this as a restructuring opportunity to ensure that in 5 years down the road, we're not having this conversation again. That's the challenge that many communities are facing. When you see other communities have overrides every other year, they're not looking, in my opinion, and maybe they are, but they're not necessarily looking to fix the systemic problem that exists. They're looking to make the next year work based on the employees they have, the services they're offering, et cetera. So I'm trying to take a little different approach here, and that's what I hope you will understand when we get through this. So let's see here. So as you all know, Michael said this, we are a salary and benefit driven organization, right? We have, at the end of this year, currently 360 employees in the Ashland Public Schools. At the end of FY26, going into FY27, we'll have about 340. And that's equivalent to what we had in 2017. So when I hear conversations, you're adding staff, you're adding staff, you're adding staff, we're actually down to 2017 numbers after this year's budget process. So it's yes, costs have risen. Michael talks about cost of health insurance. So when that rises, salaries tend to rise a little bit too in order to afford some of those costs. We are looking at trying to limit the use of the one-time funds, such as school choice, and I'll talk about what school choice is in a moment. So I look at it this way. We have two paths forward. We really do as a community. It's we pass the override, which helps us fix the structural deficit that exists year over year. It helps stabilize where we are. It limits our community having to dip into stabilization fund, which Michael didn't even talk about, the risk of us as a community utilizing those one-time funds and not have them. When we talk about rainy days, and some folks will say, hey, it's there for a rainy day. Well, the rainy day is upon us. It's leaking through the roofs, which, by the way, we need to fix it Pitaway. There are things that are out of our control. And education has some of those as well. As always, though, our conversation will always be about what's in the best interest of students. That's my job. I struggle at times, and the school committee here would tell you the same. I get it. There are many people who don't have children in the school system anymore. I understand that. My job, I've been hired as the advocate for the Ashland Public Schools, and that's why I'm here. And that's what I'm trying to relay to this whole community, that I agree with Michael. Great schools, and Claudia's comments up there, great schools lead to great communities, which lead to higher values of houses and desirable locations. We are about a $49 million organization. So when we look at the town appropriation from FY26, we get about $44,486 from the town, from taxes. That's the local. Then we have grants and revolving accounts that account for about $4.4 million. The risk of those revolving funds is what I'm trying to fix, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But as you can see, 79% of our costs are our employees. Two paths forward. Now, I'm showing you, we can discount the 3.25% right now on the other side. That's a conversation I'm having with the school committee, because we have to present budgets to the select board for approval at town meeting. And so we're in the process of having our public budget hearing required by Mass General Law in April. These are the two options right now I have on the table for the school committee. So I'm just sharing them with you, but we're really here to talk about the override tonight. And so let's focus on that left side. An operational override gets us to a 6.18% increase for next year over the current appropriated amount in FY26. What does this do for us? It helps secure long-term financial health, structural stabilization. It moves $1.1 million in this school choice account, in these one-time funds, into operations. So we're paying these salaries out of one-time funds. They will dry up, and we will not have them in the future if we don't have the override pass. That's the reality. We have about 400,000+ in operations that should be part of the overall budget. This helps in this process fully funding athletics for the Ashland Public Schools. We typically run about a 300, and I've looked at this for 16 years, so I know. We typically run about a $300,000 deficit in athletics year over year. And we collect, by the way, $300,000 in fees we charge our families for students to play sports. Significant amounts of money. We are, in aggregate, the highest fee in athletics in the Tri-Valley. So are we willing to increase fees and charge families with kids more? Those are questions the school committee is going to have to answer and ask if an override doesn't pass. Now, I am a firm believer that structurally, if we can absorb it, that's what we should be doing, because I also believe that it's a free and appropriate education. Athletics is part of that education. It's an extension of the classroom. And then this ends reliance on school choice. No matter what, folks, I'm going to be clear, no matter what, we are reducing, so our first task this year, we are reducing our full-time equivalent employees by 13.2 staff members next year, no matter what. Override passes or not, I'm not asking you as a community to fund those 13 positions. They're out of the budget, okay? And that's critically important, because a lot of times folks will have an override discussion and say, okay, now we're just going to pull these positions back in. I'm not doing that. we're not asking for that. We're trying to fix the problem. We're not trying to add these positions back in of $1.4 million is what they equate to, and then in another year say we can't afford those, and now we have to lay them off or reduce staff in another year. I mentioned this, that $1.1 million moves back into the actual budget as part of that 2.75, provides long-term, fiscal stability. This is just another slide showing it. So what does it mean, though? And I talk about those 13.2 positions. You'll notice Mendez, we're losing 3 teachers at Mendez. Now, these are all retirement positions. So these are positions that will impact the school. There will be bigger class sizes. There will be less opportunities for students. So when you see a specials, think of computer class, think of PE, think of those, music, band, et cetera. Those are positions of folks who are retiring that we're not filling. Warren teacher, again, retirement. Nursing staff, we had a retirement. Science teacher at the high school, a retirement. We're not filling those positions. Am I sitting here saying, could we take those positions and improve student learning? I do. I think we could, absolutely. But is it the right thing to do from a fiscally responsible manner and trying to stabilize where we are without asking this community for a $4 million override? The answer is yes. I think we're taking the right approach. There are unfilled positions that we have in the budget, easy ones, right? Those are easy to say. When people say, are you really culling through your budget to ensure that it's really cleaned up, et cetera? I will stand by what we've done. Yes, we go line item by line item. Chris Matthew, our Director of Finance, is here. We go line item by line item. And we say, okay, can we reduce this? Because that's the fiscally responsible thing to do for a community that's struggling financially. So then, on the other side, these are true reductions, meaning these are positions that are not retirements or unfilled positions. So these 3 positions are positions that are being reduced. The conversation we've had at the school committee, if you want to go back and look at their last meeting, those positions will actually, hamper some of our ability to do the best job we can do for our students. We're definitely seeing more and more students come across into our community who have higher levels of need, whether it's socially, emotionally, educationally, academically. How are we going to provide that? And 2 of them are administrative positions, right? And they're not in front of kids. It doesn't mean it's not going to have a detrimental effect on families and kids. It certainly will. But again, we believe this is the best approach to get that 2.75 where we need it to be. What are some of the drivers? And I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. If you get online, my budget book, it's there, and it's really detailed. And I think, for the most part, we've gotten it to a point where I'm a former CPA, so I tend to look at this stuff and how can we put it in layman's terms so everyone can understand it. I think we've done that. I think it shows both of these scenarios and really the cause and effect of one or the other. But look at our expenses and our trends. Transportation, and we're going into a budget year right now where our transportation costs, fuel costs, leasing of buses, et cetera, are up. So we have another negotiations coming. What will that do to our budget next year? I don't know. You can see how the distribution of special education and regular day cost of transportation over time, we're almost 50-50 now. We have many students. We've built great programs in our system because we believe all of the kids in this community are our kids. And if they can be a part of our system, we're going to do everything we can. It comes at a cost, for sure. But they're our kids. They're your kids. They're your community members. And for me, I look at this and say, okay, Yeah, so we have to hire a vendor that has access to a van because we have a number of students in wheelchairs. That's costly. But those kids are thriving in the Ashland Public Schools. They need to be in our system, right? So there's certainly has been over time about a 50-50 ratio. This is just the data behind it if you want to go back and look at it in terms of the true cost of each of these. It's really, the one I'm going to stop for a second, look at the FY25, and you see the revolving fund use. Now, again, we charge families to ride the bus. That's a tax on families who have kids. In this instance, this year alone, or FY25 last year, we spent $881,000 from that revolving fund to offset transportation costs. So in reality, that 881, go over to the regular day bus of 778, it's 1.5 million for the bus. It's you know, you have to keep this all in perspective here. It's pretty significant. Special education, there's always questions in the community, and we always want to be careful, right, when we're talking about special education and general education costs, because, and I'm a father of a student who was on an IEP his entire career. I understand the challenges in our community of having conversations about the true nature and the cost of special education versus general education classes. It's significant. And for those students who are so, you know, medically fragile that we can't supply education to them here, and they have to go and be educated at a private school at costs of $200,000, $300,000 per child, that's the reality that we're living in and that we're obligated to fund. So you'll notice year over year, we had 1 year where our cost went down in FY21, but you can see that the actual increase when Michael shows the conversation about, you know, the 2.5% and you got health insurance, it goes up 8%. Well, we're looking at 12%. Next year, close to 14% increase in special education out of district costs for the same amount of students, by the way. It's not that the number of children are utilizing this service, it's the needs of our kids, and we don't have control. The state allows a different process for private schools to increase their rate. We've got some schools that are increasing their fees by 20+%. We're responsible. Here's where I always get, like, I try to take a step back and think, damn, we do a really good job in this community. This, to me, is a slide that says, what's the value that you all and the folks who are watching online at home and have children who have been through the Ashland Public Schools, and I will be clear, yeah, there are ups and downs every day with our school system. There are some families who are happy. There are some parents who are not. There are some kids who are thriving. There are some we can do better. 100%, that's public school. But guess what? We're about $5,200 lower than the average in the state of Massachusetts. We spend, our state rank, 361 of 395 districts, school districts. That's what we are. We're in the bottom of what we spend per child on education. The value of education and what students are getting when they walk out of this community is tremendous for what we're spending. End of discussion. It's not even a debate, because you flip this in reverse and you go look at where we rank, and we're in that top 10% of how we achieve. But we're in the bottom 5% of what we spend. It's great value. It's a catch-22 for me to show this slide. It really is, right? Because people are like, hey, damn, you guys do a good job for what we spend. You're right, we do. But it's going to get harder and harder. That's my point. So here's the scenario that I think is really what I'm driving at with trying to fix stability. And I'm going on too long, and I definitely want time to have conversations with folks. Revolving funds, for those who are at home and here, revolving funds can only be utilized for very specific purposes. So if we charge a student to ride a bus, we can only use those fees that we receive to offset transportation costs, okay? Similarly with building rentals and athletics. The key to this whole override and the vision of the Ashland Public Schools and what we can do is this, in red, is this school choice number. We tuition kids into our district because people want to be here. They want to be in this district. And it's not significant when you talk about, oh, how much you get per child, Jim. It's $5,000. That number hasn't changed in my 16 years here. But it's still $5,000. But you can build this revolving account up over time. So with an override passing, go all the way to the far right. FY27 ending number, right, is a balance of $1.9 million. That's what we'd have in that account. This is what we're projecting. And that projection allows us to do a lot of things. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But if we don't do this, this is what happens. We're looking at, by the end of FY28, and we'll use it with a 3.25%, for instance, increase. School choice goes to a negative balance of 38,000 because we have to use all those funds to cover salaries. The $1.1 million next year that we automatically have to add back in. We have eight educators, counselors mainly, who are part of our school choice salaries. So it's coming. If we don't pass an override, it's coming. And all I can tell you is when we get here, these numbers mean layoffs, reductions. I've had great questions about the 13.2. They're still going away, remember. But what would it look like, Jim, if all of this goes away in 2 years? It's probably anywhere from 13 to 20 more educators. That's the reality. Because we are a people-driven, 79% of our costs, our salaries. So why do I want to fix the problem? Why do I want to fix the school choice issue? Because we as a community, we don't have a structure set up that really, and I try to think about this with your own property and your own house, and it's really hard to do in tough times, but to set that money aside for, a roofing project at your house, a car is damaged, these expenses that occur every once in a while but are not, that recurring cost that you're budgeting for. We have those. And this is just a little list. I have the whole list online. $14 million worth of lists, if you will, of deferred maintenance projects. If we have a boiler, say at the Pitaway School, break, doesn't function, heating season's coming. My guess is the community's going to probably want me to fix that boiler and have heat for the smallest kids we have in our district, right? Hopefully they'd want it at the high school too for the biggest kids. But my greater point is that we don't have that necessary flexibility. I can't just go to Michael, I can, and he's going to say, Jim, I don't have it either. Can I have $500,000 to fix it? We don't have set up safety nets, if you will. I'm looking just the fourth line down, the literacy program. We are looking at a new literacy program, which is required to be in compliance with the Department of Education. It's going to cost about $900,000. How do we fund that? For me, I look at it and say, it's simple. If we're not spending $1.1 million out of school choice for salaries, which should be in the operations, we now have flexibility to utilize those funds for truly one-time costs. I'm making it real simple, but that's the reality. we're in the process, and Michael and I, just 2 days ago, we're still working towards the Ashland Public Schools taking back, if you will, the control of the fields, the athletic fields for the school system, right? The ones that belong to the schools. How do we afford and fund taking care of those, the maintenance of those? How do we ensure that our community, our youth sports, can play on fields that are appropriate, that people aren't going to get hurt on? So it offers us opportunity. I guess that's my greater point. I'm a huge optimist. I know most of my staff would say you're not, but I am. Last slide for me. Again, focus on the left. Structural stability. Athletics fully funded. School choice, now it's available for strategic needs. Not used to fund $1.1 million of salaries and heat and oil and operations, which should be a part of the budget. And it's long-term, it's sustainable. You know, we typically will run anywhere between a 3% and a 5% increase in our budget. That's typically, if you go back over the years and in my budget book, you'll see I calculate that. We typically, that's what we're looking at. But we can manage to that. Chris and I have these conversations all the time. We can manage to that 3.75 number that we had agreed to years ago. We have to. But we can't unless we're able to free up some from other funds. So that is really all I'm going to present, because I prefer to have conversation about these things. I think it's the challenge before us as a community is, and I think where education itself has done a poor job, is we don't look long term. We don't look downrange, right? We don't. We look at, okay, how do we fix today's problem today and worry next year about next year? I can tell you, if we don't fix the problem now, I will guarantee you I will come back and ask for an override next year. You may say, no, Jim, we're not going to approve it next year either. I understand that. But my point is, that number then will escalate to closer to $5 million. That's the reality. Because at some point, it's either that or we reduce our employees. And what I'm telling you from earlier is we've already done that. We're down to 2017 employment numbers. That's where we are. And our enrollment has risen and will continue to rise. That's it. Sorry. There we go. Off my soapbox.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Michael. So at this point, we are going to start the Q&A portion of our evening. So we did receive, we had put out to the community the option to be able to submit questions in advance, and we did receive 19 questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read through all of them. A lot of them have been answered by things that we discussed tonight, but I want to make sure that everyone feels like their question has been raised and addressed. What we are also going to do, I kind of mentioned at the beginning, is we will be posting written responses to all these questions, both the questions that we received in advance and then the questions being asked tonight on the town's website. So the town has created a specific budget and override page. You can get to it by the Town of Ashland's homepage, and if you go into the news section, there's a section, there's a link to click to get to that page, and all of that will be on there. We also have links to Mr. Adams' budget book, the presentations that he did to the school committee, plus recording links to our tri-board meetings too. So there's lots of information there, and we'll be adding more sort of as we kind of go along the next 6 weeks. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just go down the list. So the first question that came through was, can the town respond with likely scenarios to occur if the override is voted down? What services and personnel would be affected, and by what magnitude? This will provide a good reference point to base our vote on. So I think Mr. Adams had answered that pretty clearly. The scenario would be that, the 13.2 positions, and that this would be sort of potentially mitigating further devastating reductions kind of in the future. Second question, if passed, will some of the revenue raised from the override be used to make improvements to the town, such as implementing some of the suggestions in the town's long-term strategic plan, or providing permanent fixes to critical needs, such as the shortfall in the town's water supply, or is the override intended to simply sustain current services? And the answer is, it is to sustain level service, period. I'm struggling as with my income. Sorry, I'm the aging middle class, which I get. Struggling to pay taxes, utilities, food. I'm already skipping medications and doctor visits because I can pay for them. Because I can't pay for them, it should say. Where am I going to get the money to pay more? Where do I go for a personal override? So this is a really important question. I think that one of the things that we do as a community is that there are senior exemptions that, I don't know, Michael, do you want to talk a little bit about that briefly?
Yeah, so the town has a number of programs that could be utilized by residents who are interested and qualified to offset or reduce their tax burden. So the most prominent one is called the 41C.5 tax exemption. And for qualifying seniors, and you can find that on the assessor's page, there's an age limit and also an income limit, not an asset limit, but an income limit. We actually, if you qualify for that, the deduction is actually a little over $1,100. Now, in 2016, that was only $500. We have consciously tried to increase that each year, understanding that taxes are going up and that we've tried to help provide offsetting relief for those who would qualify for it. One other program that's not very well known is a tax deferral program. And that allows a homeowner who qualifies to actually defer their taxes. There is an interest rate associated with it, and that eventually becomes a lien on the property. So when you do sell the property, that does get paid. Clearly, that's a tool that some people could utilize if they wanted to, but that's not as popular as the straight exemption.
And also there's a trash abatement for seniors as well.
Correct.
So thank you.
That's a lower cost.
Yes.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so next question. We actually had two questions on this. Has the town considered allowing marijuana dispensaries again? Well, the answer to that is we really can't answer that question tonight. And it's, even if we could, it wouldn't be applicable to this year's budget cycle. So, but we can always look at things for the future. So, but we had two questions on that. The next question is, if 13 positions have to be eliminated in the school system, which ones are they? And if the override is not passed, there would be more positions eliminated, which ones are they? So Mr. Adams went through all those positions, and again, the slides will be up on the website. Can you please provide more details about the Keefe Tech added costs?
Take that, Jim?
Sure. So Keefe Tech yearly does their assessment. So their assessment went up 4% for their actual budget. With state law now, there's an adjustment in terms of enrollment numbers. We have the highest number of students we've had at Keefe in a long time. So we have 75 students. There's 17 more students that is part of the budget process for Keefe than we had in previous years. So 17 more students equates to $396,000 at a 4.5% increase on the Keefe budget. It will stabilize. So with the passage of the law last year, we should not see another bump like this in the future. And I'm going to put a caveat on this. If Keefe, as they go through the building process of looking at a new building over at Keefe, that certainly will have an impact on the Ashland community and other communities who send students to Keefe Tech.
Thank you. The next question is, are proposed 40B developments projected to be revenue positive for the town's annual budget? And they said, please answer yes or no only. And I would say, depends. So, I know. Someday. So just in very brief, because we're not talking about sort of future and growth and things here tonight, but there is tax revenue that comes in when a development comes online. It's added into what's called new growth on our budget. So we do get tax revenue from those developments, but there is a trade-off. So there is services that we then need to provide as a community, and we need to be able to adjust to those needs. So again, it depends. The question is, when do we get to vote yay or nay? Again, the dates are May 6th at town meeting and May 19th at the ballot, town election. There's also a question about absentee ballots. So what is the process for completing an absentee ballot if they are not going to be here for the election? And they can go on the town clerk's website and apply for an absentee ballot. There is also early voting, thank you, which will be happening in Town Hall. I don't have the dates. I should have the dates, but it's also on the clerk's website. Thank you, Paul. I would say that one of the other things in this question regarded the May 6th date, and I just wanted to make sure people are aware. Town meeting is an in-person only event. So we have open town meeting here in Ashland, not representative town meeting, which means every voter can come to town meeting and vote if you haven't been to town meeting, you raise a card to vote. But it is in person. There is no virtual or hybrid option for folks, and there's no absentee ballots for town meetings, so you do have to show up in person. Okay, the next question is regarding a pension fund lag. Is it underperforming investments, underfunding, why, or optimistic actuarial assumptions? Yeah.
Yeah. So real quickly, Ashland, like many communities that are a little smaller, belong to a county retirement system. So we don't administer our own pension fund. So we don't have control over that and everything. We do that to save money, save on administrative costs. But I believe in 2024, the last audit on the Middlesex County retirement system, I think they had estimated 7.2% return. I believe they ended up with like a 9.4% return. And their actuarial assumptions show that they're going to be funded. What I looked at today was actually 2036, fully funded at 2036.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Mm-hmm. There was a question about the benefits for seniors. We had kind of talked about that with this is about the trash breaks and also the property tax break, which we discussed. Scrolling. There's a question about Appendix 1 in your budget book, Jim. It says it's a challenge to understand the table. Are the items listed here projects that are unplanned for? Is this table a list of projects already funded? Or are these items that would be covered with an override? If so, are they listed in priority order?
I'll go backwards. No, they're not listed in priority order. These are estimated projects that we need to have done at some point in the future. And the challenge is, how do we fund them? So sometimes at town meeting, we do debt service to fund capital projects. And the process of the override is to allow us to have the school choice funds and building rental funds to be able to actually subsidize our capital program at the town level. So that's the process. If we don't have an override and we don't have the flexibility to use those revolving funds, then we have to look to the town as a debt exclusion at some point.
Okay. Thank you. So, question, if responsibility for fields and grounds maintenance is being shifted from the town to the schools, will the town also be providing funding to cover these added costs? And when school facilities are rented out, who gets that revenue? Want to talk a little bit about that?
No, great question. So there are two components to this. So if someone currently rents the inside of our facilities, the building themselves, then the funding currently comes to the Ashland Public Schools, which helps offset the costs of custodial staff, maintenance staff, anyone who's in the building for those events. Currently, through the FY June 30th of this year, of 26, the town has been responsible for receiving revenues for exterior field, for the fields, right? Even including National Public School fields and town fields. Starting in July 1, the revenue will come to the Ashland Public Schools for Ashland Public School fields only. And those funds are what will be utilized to offset costs to maintain and ensure that we have proper, Michael talked about this at his meeting the other night, staffing in order to mow the fields, to line the fields, et cetera. We have great collaboration with all of the Ashland youth organizations who put in tens of thousands of dollars to ensure our fields are actually usable but that's where the money will come. It'll come into the schools starting July 1 and then distributed to the employees and or equipment, whatever it might be, to keep the fields working appropriately.
Okay, thank you. So this is a multi-question question. So what is the new growth for FY26 and forecasted for FY27? Let's start with that.
Okay, so FY26 we finished with, and I'm going to look at Don, our assessor, 727,000 in new growth. Okay, and we're forecasting 900,000 for FY27.
Okay, thank you. The next part of that question is, what is the anticipated increase in police, fire, and DPW calls once the 6 proposed projects are completed? I don't know if we've done any analysis on that.
No, I mean, but I think it's fair to say that we do anticipate them going up. In history, like with Cirrus and we'll see as the Asher continues to fill, that does generate a significant amount of calls, both for police and fire.
Thank you. What would it cost to increase the police and fire by an additional person, each in addition to the current proposal?
Okay, so for a police officer, to bring one on, you're looking at about $100K. So when you start thinking about salaries, educational benefits, outfitting one, sending one to the academy, the training, it's about $100K right there. Firefighters are a little bit less, between like 80 and 90. Again, starting out, you got to outfit them. Just the gear itself. Keith, you're here. What, 10 grand just the gear? 12 grand right now. Yeah, I mean this is like serious equipment.
Yeah.
Yep.
On the school side, what was the full-time staff numbers in 2021 versus 2026, and the enrollment 2021 versus 2026?
Give me 13 seconds.
Okay.
2021 was, they wanted the...
You want me to show this?
The staffing? was
Staff and enrollment.
That's,
Yeah.
2021, it was 383.9. Enrollment, give me a second on that. Historical. I knew this would be a good question, so I should have had it up. In 2021 was 2,700 students, 2,713.
Okay.
Okay, in 2026, is that
Yes.
what they're asking now? Enrollment is 2,886 students, so 173 more students. And FTEs are 360.6.
Because of the years that were chosen to ask, I'm also going to share the slide because
Sure,
2021 was also the COVID.
come back COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Right. right.
This,
Yeah.
so this was student enrollment over that period of time. So while that did go down to almost 2,700, that was a dip because of COVID and,
Right.
and the different choices that were made by families during when we were remote. So, but this is the enrollment trend, and then this is our FTEs over that same time period.
Yeah. It's going down significantly.
And these slides can be available as well.
Okay, thank you. The next question, in addition to a potentially successful income tax reduction ballot question, federal funding uncertainties, the increasing cost of living in Massachusetts, and general voter frustration, Massachusetts is starting to experience an outmigration of high-wealth individuals and families. Assuming a perfect storm and a state budget deteriorating beyond its current fiscal challenges, how would the math work if the override amount is insufficient to bridge Ashland's fiscal situation? And would you come back to the taxpayers for an FY28 fix?
Well, the only override we're asking for in this scenario is for education, right? So the quick answer is no, we would not be looking to come back in FY28 for additional funding for this override, for the school perspective. I can't speak for Michael and what it might look like from a operations of general government, but.
Yeah, and there's so many variables
Right.
that could be out there. I mean, we have expenses that we won't know what those are going to be, like health insurance, until later in the year. We have no idea what's happening at the federal government level as well.
Nor do they. I'm sorry.
Well, fair enough. Yeah, let's put it this way. If we could actually predict that, we would have factored that into our planning this year.
Right. Okay, thank you. Just also worth mentioning is that we do have a stabilization fund that is really like our rainy day fund and used for emergency purposes. We're going to be tapping into that this year, as we do every year, pretty much to balance our budget. This year, I think it's going to be a little bit more, but, you know, that is really, if, my opinion, just my opinion, if literally, if the bottom falls out of our budget and the state cuts things across the board and we end up with a situation that, you know, could be a worst-case scenario, we would probably utilize the stabilization fund as much as we could while still protecting the town. So just, you know, putting that out there. Right?
And I think that's a good point. We hear about the stabilization fund and we talk about going to it and utilizing it. And it is such a great tool for us. You know, one of the things I talked about is the fact that we've gone from $2.5 million in reserves now to 8.1. We've done that specifically. We've grown that for two reasons. Number one, we want the best. Jim, you were talking about a roof, right? A rainy roof. I think there's a quote like the best time to fix a roof is when the sun is shining, right? And so when times were good, what we did is we tried to buttress that stabilization fund. So when we did hit some rougher times, we were able to utilize that. The problem is it's still one-time funds because you can't guarantee you're going to put money into it the next time. So the more you withdraw out of it and the more you structure your budget around part of that, the more precarious it gets because you might not have that revenue source next year. Eventually it gets drained down, just like the balance in your bank account.
And we did have one more question about our fire and police, basically in regards to potentially, you know, increased need if once these apartments come online and what that looks like. I think we kind of talked about that a bit. We really are not predicting yet what the impact is going to be, and we're going to have to adjust to that.
Yeah, and I do think it's important to note because I think some people still think that because it's an apartment building, they wouldn't necessarily pay taxes. And no, the renters don't pay taxes to the town, but the owner of the property does.
Okay. And there's one other question, I'm not quite sure about this, so maybe it says, will any of the money be used for legal assistance for illegal immigrants similar to what Boston's trying to do? And I would say, I don't think that's applicable.
No.
So I'm just, yeah.
I think it's outlined how the money's gonna be used.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's,
Yes.
I think Jim's been pretty clear.
So,
about
okay.
that.
And that is all the questions that we had received in advance. So if folks want to ask a question here tonight or make a comment, what we do ask is that folks online use the raise hand function. Anybody that is here in the room that would like to speak, please feel free to come up to the podium and the microphone, just introduce yourself and ask your question or comment. So, is there anybody that would like to?
So at my last job, before I retired,
Can you introduce yourself?
yeah, I'm sorry, Fred Shalou, live at Tybin Road. We came up with a theme, which was make it visible, make it better. I applaud you for pulling the 1.1 million out and making it visible, because it's been buried. I'm challenging the town for the same thing. You're gonna burn 750 grand out of the, basically what's a rainy day fund to fund operating. I expect that 750 grand is a baseline you're gonna build on next year also. So at some point, you're just kicking the can down the road. So we're not making that visible. I mean, you are in a certain respect, but taking it off the agenda on the override is really kicking the can down the road and kind of lessening its impact. So, the general comment. But along the lines of making it visible, make it better, I would challenge a few things where I think the town can do better in managing its budget.
Okay.
Number one, leaf and refuse pickup. We do 8 times in the spring, 8 times in the fall. I see the waste management trucks spinning around our cul-de-sac and picking up nothing. Marlboro, because I pick up my sister-in-law's leaves, you have 1 day to get it out there. 1 day in the spring, 1 day in the fall. And that's not people, that's something you've negotiated with waste management, right? So that's it. I would also hope that the town takes a little bit more critical view with its road plowing. I know you got accolades over these last storms, but I'm sorry, there are some things that were done that maybe I spend too much time in my office working on the computer, looking out the window. But one of those storms, the salt truck came by, it was 7 degrees on my thermometer, which, by the way, salt doesn't work under 10 degrees. And then a half an hour later, the plows came by and plowed it all off. And the plows circled around. That was one of the first big storm, probably plowing an inch and a half at a time. I know that plowing's very tough on trucks, so you would think the number of times you plow could reduce it all. So I challenge you, you say you're doing an awesome job managing, to really ask your staff, are they really digging in and understanding where their costs are and getting down to the bottom of it? Certainly the waste pickup is just something that, compare with other towns, see what else they do, and benchmark that and align with them.
Okay. I think that's great feedback, sir. And I think actually your comment about the 750 and making it visible, I very much appreciate that, because that was a choice that we were kind of balancing. You know, I had initially, put forward maybe a way we could build it into the operating budget. And I think collectively the choice was made, just looking at the burden, the tax burden, to try to not make it as bad this year.
Understand, but likely, unless you do something to reduce your other expenses for those 4 departments, you're gonna be back in 2 years asking for another override. And I think that will really make the public, it would anger me, that it's like, why didn't we just get this out of the way one time? So,
Fair
anyways,
enough.
I'm done, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi. Julie Nardone, 86 Elliott Street. An override is not going to solve the problem, and that's evidenced by the fact that towns that do overrides have other overrides. Because once you do an override, you have more money, more sharing, more people, and you just make your budget exponentially bigger. So this is a systemic problem, like Jim said. And I think the only way to fix it, and I've said this before, is to have the state of Mass split the income tax. Their budget has doubled since 2012. They've got plenty of money. They do not fund towns like other states, and we're a very rich state. So I really think you should lobby them instead of us. They're the ones with the money. And then two, I always see these comparisons across towns. You cannot compare across towns because the demographics are different and the income is different. Okay, so I was a researcher. You probably see me posting stuff. Once a researcher, always a researcher. So today I went and I got 15 towns around us to get the median household income. And going from lower to higher, we're the 5th lowest. And in front of us are Framingham, Marlborough, Milford, and one other town, but they all have huge commercial. So the towns after us, Hopkinton is about 200, we're 127,000. Hopkinton's 201, Sherburne's 250, Medway's one, I think, 79. I'm gonna type this up and post it tomorrow, because honestly, I just feel like you're trying to get water from the stone, okay? There are a lot of struggling people here. You might not be able to see them, but they're there. So I know there's a lot of people that want to speak. Thank you.
Julie, I just want to say I agree with you as far as what's happening on the state level. The system is broken. I think that is a conversation that's happening at the state level. We've raised that, and you know, we're part of the Mass Municipal Association, and they actually put out a report this year that basically, you know, states that our towns are in crisis, and it is, that the system is broken. So I appreciate that comment a lot, because we need to have the state look at how they support the communities, because if all the communities are having the same issues and we're not able to fund our basic education and our basic programs, the system is broken. So.
Yeah, and Julie, to your point, actually that conversation is starting to ramp up a bit more across communities. And I think, you know, some of the state laws, especially some of the more recent ones that have been implemented to maybe take a little power away or local control away from communities, I think, you know, that and some of the budgetary stuff is really starting to get communities saying the same things.
Yeah. So
And can I just comment a little bit too, Julie? With regard to like Chapter 70 funding and schools being funded through the state, right now, we're at this situation in Ashland where we're a hold harmless district, meaning we're not getting those huge chunks of Chapter 70 funding anymore. We get $75 a child is what we get. So it's about $211,000, $220,000, somewhere in there. That's all we're getting in Chapter 70. Last year, we were in the similar situation. The challenge I find here, especially in Massachusetts, of doing budgets, we're talking about this right now in March, we're not going to see the state budget until July. And as they go through their process, we're hoping, as they did last year, they moved it to $150 a child, right? So they increased it by another $200,000. That's the impact it would have on us. We don't get an opportunity until the fall town meeting to really recognize that revenue. We can't, Michael and I are really conservative when it comes to the numbers that come out on in February and March from the state. We have to be. I think it's the right approach. But typically, the state has kicked in a little extra in Chapter 70, not so much in municipal aid, but certainly in education they have. So, yeah.
Thank you. I did see a hand online, but I don't see a hand up. There was, but so I'm just making sure that anyone that wants to make a comment online, just to use the raise hand function. Oh, Leah, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead to Leah.
Timing so that
We are timing. Yep. Leah, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, if you can. Hopefully you can. We're working on it. there you go. Okay. Go ahead, Leah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Leah Suarez of 25 Valley Road. This isn't a question as much as it is a comment to someone else's question earlier. Someone had asked if we had looked into revisiting the marijuana sales, and there wasn't too much of an answer to that, but I was going to say as part of the comprehensive plan committee, that is a part of the comprehensive plan to revisit it. I'm not saying that it will pass. It still has to go through town meeting, but I think discussions will happen in the next few years related to that.
Thank you, Leah. Okay. Joan, come on up.
Joan Gonfrati, One Shore Road, on the Historical Commission, just speaking as an individual. First, I want to thank you all for the presentations. I've listened to the police and fire and DPW the other night, and I've listened to the school. And in all honesty, I think that we are at a crossroads. And based on what I've heard so far, I'll probably vote for it. I'm not going to swear to it, but I'll try. I think that my bigger concern is looking down the road, and I know it's been mentioned a couple of times, is that with the projects that are coming on, we are going to be in really big trouble. And I think we just have to have a really good plan for that. So that's just my comment, that I think we really need to start planning way ahead for this. So thank you very much, all.
Great. Thank you, Joan. Come on up.
Anybody else?
Can you, you're okay.
Okay.
Can you go ahead and
Okay.
introduce yourself?
Yeah,
please?
Deborah Weekly. I have a question about your sports field, the funding. The town was taking care of it before, so now you want to put it on the school side. So I don't really see the difference between who funds it, except whose budget it comes out of. And if we know that it's been a problem, and I guess what has been the problem? I mean, I know we're trying to get more revenue out of it. Is it just that you're asking for the people who are operating the budget? That's where the money is coming from, as to who's operating it, as opposed to somebody in the town managing the budget for it to the school funding it. And then I have some more questions. I guess more comments. The frustrating part for me, like tonight before coming to the meeting, was I was trying to find a copy of the proposed budget. Couldn't find it. I looked to I brought up the last meeting online, and I couldn't even read the slides online. They were all fuzzy, even when I zoomed in. My glasses, and I don't need glasses for that, but I couldn't read it. So I was very, very frustrated that I couldn't get a copy of the proposed budget so that I could ask informed questions as to what were the specific dollar amounts that I was looking. Now, I know that you've compared different years, but we could all spin it different ways. As of this year, I'm looking at it as opposed to this year. Which year was, I just would like, I guess, why isn't that posted to the website? Why aren't the teacher salaries, the town hall salaries, why? I can go online. I went to comparison for you, Michael, Sudbury, and I typed in salary, town manager. Boom, it popped up. It gave me year 26, 27, and 28. I go to Ashland, I got nothing. Okay. So why is it, that would be the first question, why is it that we are not posting these and instead asking the public to pay for these public records? So 2 questions, I guess, there.
I can answer the first one.
Okay.
About the fields.
All right.
That's more appropriate for me. So we need to go back 15 years when the turf fields were initially implemented. And at that time, there was a group called the Ashland Fields Management Group. And Tony Schiavi was the town manager at the time. And at that point in time, the fields, although the school fields were in existence, there was a conversation then about who should be responsible for collecting the revenue, booking the fields, non-Ashland Public School events, if you will, right? And then what would happen to those funds? So there was an enterprise fund set up at the town, on the town side, not the schools, not the revolving accounts, right? So over the course of time, the intent back then, because I was around, the intent then was to collect the fees and then be able to replace the turf, et cetera. It doesn't materialize in terms of, because at that point in time, Hopkinton didn't have turf fields. Now they have a plethora of them, right? And many communities do as well. So our revenues that were generated then and today do not align with what they were thinking back then. However, the revenue that has been coming in for the fields has helped support some of the DPW salaries as well, because they're the ones who are responsible, right? Yep. So what will happen theoretically, this is how it should work, is the Ashland Public Schools will collect the fees just for the Ashland Public School properties. Okay. And then we would collect those and put them in our revolving and then pay out the, so for instance, we have a custodial staff, a maintenance staff currently assigned to fields in our athletic department. So that could help offset some of the costs there, the rentals. So the rental money comes into the schools now and will be distributed for school employees only for the fields. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I'd ask, why hasn't that been done already?
Great question. It should have been. But at one point, I didn't take control of it. I wasn't the superintendent then. Mm-hmm. It was taken away from the schools. Okay. DPW, believe me, they don't want anything to do with the rental properties. I don't blame them. But there has to be a mechanism and it has to be a process. And that's one of the things we're doing now is pulling together procedures to ensure, because what's happened, Ashland has blossomed, as you can see by Michael showed the slide, the number of residents, right? Mm-hmm. Our youth sports, 700 students playing youth soccer. Yeah. They don't have enough space. The comprehensive plan says there's not enough space. So what we're trying to do, what I'm trying to do from the school perspective, is think about, okay, we've got our Ashland Public School athletics, and then we've got our community teams and events. Before we even think about renting out to any other, we've got to take care of our people first. And so we're going through that process. I didn't have control of it. We're just working through, Michael and I have been working through details, and Doug Small, and so we're working through it. And I'm hoping in 2 years we look back and say, what a great move this was. So, yeah.
Yeah, Deborah, I think, so regarding the slides from the last presentation, I think all of the slides are up on the FY27 budget page.
The new one that you just said was going to be posted tonight?
So the website's already up, but we're going to add.
Find it.
So if you go to the main webpage, the main town webpage, and you go under like the news section is probably the easiest way to get to it.
I can't just do a search. I have to go to a specific. If I'm at the search bar right at the top, Town of Ashland, can I can't, I typed in fiscal year 27 proposed budget, and I got nothing.
Our search is a little wonky, to be honest.
Go under accounting, finance.
Yeah.
Government,
Okay.
Or through the main page.
I think the best way to fix this is to bug us.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll raise my hand and if you send me an email, contact me, I'll try to find it.
And you're Paul?
Yes, I'll bug Michael until, and at some point when
Well, I
I've done
hope
enough,
it's
we'll fix
sooner
it.
rather than later so that we have time to go over this before May 6th.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I
Any
would say.
information we can get you, reach out, and if it's painful for us, we'll get it fixed.
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
is in draft form at this point anyway. So there will be lots of opportunity to talk about the.
So
Okay,
our
that-
website is very hard to navigate, and I complain about it all the time. And what I have found to be the most effective thing is to just do Google searches, and frequently it'll take me to
I've
someplace.
tried those before
It-
too.
It's very hard. I mean, we don't have a dedicated person, and I think that's part of
God,
the
don't
issue.
tell
We're
me you
looking
wanna
at
hire
maybe a
another person in
refresh of
town
it
hall.
this year, right? Yeah. Deborah, your point's well taken.
Reach out.
Okay, but
Point's still working.
with regards to I mean, it's so, the salaries and everything, why aren't we transparent with that? Other towns list, I mean, it's public funds, we're paying, that sounds terrible. I would never say that to you, if a policeman stopped me, well, I'm paying your salary. No, I would never say that. you know, definitely throw my ass in jail, but, excuse me.
Deborah, I don't think they'd do that if you said that. I'm just saying.
So I'm just asking, are we going to do that? And if not, why not?
Okay, so, you know, I think if you go to our next request system, you can find the salaries there if you wanted to.
Another place.
Oh, and fair enough, public records. I mean, we can put that up there, just, you know, like a straight salary line. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, where, I mean, other towns and that I'm familiar with have listed out, here's all the teachers' salaries, okay? Here's your salary and all the town employees. And it's listed by name. It shouldn't be a secret. I mean.
I agree. And also,
But I mean, this is an ongoing thing. It's not, you know, be updated annually with, you know, the contracts and everything like that, so that you can see where are we going, you know, whatever. So.
good points. I do believe, I know my contract's online, and if you just go town manager's contract, it should take you right to that.
Okay, I guess it's the verbiage.
Okay.
Okay.
You feel like you've got a good,
Nah,
okay.
but thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thanks, Deborah.
Hello,
Hi.
Keith Ferguson, Old Country Path. I'm wondering if you can tell me, if you know, if cuts at the federal level have contributed to this at all, and if so, how much, and just what percentage of my ire should I direct that way? It's a significant percentage already, but I'm willing to up it if need be. Also, for Mr. Adams, if you could explain a little bit more about the school choice money. I don't quite follow what that is exactly and how that contributes to the current problem. Thank you. I'm going to sit down.
Sure. I can hit both those. So currently we fund 5 positions, Chris, is that right, out of Title I? Or 3 positions there out of Title I. I'll use Title I as a federal fund that we get, right? So we have 3 positions, 3 different schools, and right now we bring in just a couple $100,000 for federal grant there, right, or federal fund. We're anticipating that to be reduced by about 110,000, so 50% of that. So we will have to then, within our budget, figure out how to take that 110,000 of loss. We won't know until the fall or July if that truly transpires or not. So we'll have to figure that out within our budget. But to answer your question about school choice is I can try to keep it as simple as possible. Students from other communities who want to attend the Ashland Public Schools apply through a process if the town decides or the school committee decides year over year to allow school choice students in our district. And they don't have to, and they can choose by grade level. So in April, I will actually do a presentation every year and say, okay, we can afford to open up 10 school choice seats, if you will, at the freshman level at Ashland High School, because we know 17 kids are going to Keefe, right? So we've got a opportunity to add some students. You get $5,000 per child. So it's $50,000. Assume all 10 kids came. Doesn't happen. Our fill rate is less than 50%. So you can open up 10, we may get 4.5 kids, no, 5 kids, right? And so those funds, however, it's the only revenue source that we have that can be used for any purpose under education. So we can use it to fix a field. We can use it to fund a salary. We can use it to pay for books. We can use it to pay for heat, etc. So that's how school choice works. I will tell you this, in 2007, it was before I got here, the Ashland Public Schools, it was a financial crisis then, and what they did at that point in time was they cut out of the budget all supply and textbook lines. They've never returned. Here we are, 2026. They didn't return. They funded them through school choice. So when the students come into our community, we're taking those funds and then distributing the funds to different schools. So the Warren School gets $30,000 a year to pay for supplies or for books, similar to high school. So that's how we utilize those funds, and that's really what it is. Does that answer the question? Yes. Okay.
Okay, great. Is there anybody else online that would like to ask a question? Please use the raise hand function on Zoom. And while we're waiting for that, we do have one more person at the podium. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Tim Jones, Roberts Road. Jim Adams, you've been great at the schools, and as a Orange School is fantastic. Really appreciate that. Also got to say the police department, awesome in town. I just had a question. What can we do to get more of the special needs kids that get booked out to private schools? Is there a way to create something to bring them back? And would we save, I think you mentioned $200,000 per student, right? So I'll let you have it, but I just want to say we appreciate you, Jim Adams.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. So I would say if you take an opportunity, and this is online in the Ashland Public Schools website. I have it's in this book. Should be in this book. We've built, since I've been superintendent, we've built numerous programs in our school system to bring students and keep students in our community. And because we do value and believe that we can do a better job with our students than sending them to a private school or a residential school or whatever it might be, there are some kids, we got to remember, there are only 32 kids that are going to different schools. Some of these students are actually students who are moving into our community, and they've already been in an out-of-district placement. When a child goes out of district, it's really difficult to bring them back in. You really have to show that you've got a proper program, right? So I can give a great example of a program we started 2 years ago. This is the third year now. It's our 18 to 22 program. And we used to have all of our students, so we're obligated through federal law through 22 years of age to educate our students on IEPs. So we were like, wait a minute, we can do a better job. So we created a program 3 years ago. And town meeting funded it. It's expensive for sure because you have staffing, you've got a vehicle, you've got paraprofessional support, you've got supplies, you got all sorts of things, right? So we started out with 3 kids, Mike, and next year we're anticipating 7. And so that alone, if that one program is saving hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Ashland Public Schools. The programs we've created, it's not really great math, and Paul and I always have this conversation, but let's assume a special education student who could potentially be outplaced to a different setting because we couldn't meet their needs. That might be a student at $38,000 per pupil. Average cost of a student who is outplaced might be $80,000. So you've got this $50,000 delta that we're saving every single student time, right? I estimate close to $10 million on a year-over-year basis, the programs we've built. Now, that's a huge assumption, right? It's a huge assumption that every one of those kids would be outplaced. That's not the case. We know that. But even if it was half of it, $5 million year over year, it's pretty significant for the community. And we've invested in the community itself has supported that. It is in my book. You'll see the programs that we've listed, all of the programs we have, the number of students who participate, and the estimated cost it would be if those students couldn't participate. Yeah.
Jim, I just want to add to that, I retired before this program was implemented, but I was still there when you were planning for it. So, I think that's key, that there is planning that happens when you saw this need and what the potential, first of all, because it is the right thing to keep kids in our community, and then also the cost savings, and that was being planned for several years.
Yeah, Jim, you talked about that, I think, when we were just starting out together. And another thing that I think is really important to note is that our charter school sending tuition has gone down, I think, $1 million in the last 10 or 13. Because so many kids were actually leaving or going from Ashland Public Schools and wanting to go to charter schools. As the quality of the school system has developed over the years, what's happened is parents have wanted to bring their kids back into this system, and so we don't have to pay as much as a community to send them to charter schools.
Right. So we have, I think I just counted, 13 separate programs we've created internally serving 130 kids. Yeah.
So a lot of kids, I think, are back in the district,
Yeah.
which also affects school choice
Sure.
as well, because school choice, then you don't have as many seats available to get money in.
Okay. Do you want to come on up?
Andrew, can I just stand up and yell?
No, you can't just stand up and yell.
You're not special.
Come on over
Well,
to
you
the
are special,
microphone.
Joe.
I am special. I'm something but special. I had to make this old man get up and walk. Good evening, and thank you all for the presentation. It was very informative, and I hope the answers to the questions that were asked were very helpful. Jim, I have a quick question. When it comes to school choice, the funding that comes from, is that state mandated, or is that how is that $5,000 assessment made?
Yeah, it's set by the state.
Okay, so if we needed to raise that figure, that would be something that we would need to have our legislative representatives and bodies let them know that this is not an accurate figure, it's not a figure that is help supporting, and maybe they need to refigure and relook at that and maybe increase that. Would that be beneficial or helpful at some point?
Yeah, so what happens is, remember, the choice number, say $5,000, if we send a student to, say, Holliston, it comes out of, we get charged back the $5,000 right as a town. So it's a wash one way or the other. The whole goal should be, the delta should always be in favor of the number of students who are coming in versus leaving, right? But yes, $5,000 is not, a good figure at this point in time. It's been that way for, I don't know, I mean,
Since the
20
program,
years,
yeah.
at least. And the challenge is the funding at the state level needs to be revamped again. Paul talked about the Student Opportunity Act. What they didn't take into account was inflation. They didn't take it into account when they actually set up the Student Opportunity Act. We saw a huge increase of $1.7 million in Chapter 70 a number of times. Part of it was we had more students. They broke out the increments in terms of if you have an English language learner student, a student on an IEP, low-income student, all those things. So when we're getting better at our data reporting, we're getting more funding. But we're maxed out now. It's $75 a kid. So,
Okay, thank you. By the way, I forgot to identify myself. Joe Mignani, 2 Harper Lane in Ashland. Thank you.
Thanks.
Just in case you didn't know who I was.
Thank you. So we are coming up on 9 o'clock in just a few minutes. I just want to give one more opportunity for anyone to ask a final question. Come on up. Oh, be careful.
Yeah, be careful, there's some wires there.
Oh,
You've been here 2 nights in a row,
First of all, my name is Donna Shaw. I've been a resident of Ashland for 14 years and have never been happier, more welcoming, and content with what I see, what I live with, and what I experience. Because I've been known to have the gift of gab, I apologize in advance because I put my thoughts down and I'd like to read it. I also want to thank you and let you know how much I appreciate the information you gave to us tonight, because we can make informed decisions based on what we know. And you were very helpful explaining a lot of things that most people don't know and they don't understand. And that brings them to a decision that may not be in the best interest of Ashland. Okie dokie. Excuse me. One thing I believe people may be overlooking during these turbulent times is that it truly takes a village. Every one of us is facing challenges, holding different perspectives, holding different ideas and desires for what we think Ashland should be doing. And we're asking a lot of questions because of the sacrifices we're going to be forced to make. At the same time, the federal government has withdrawn over millions, maybe even billions of dollars from Massachusetts alone. Funding that was part of our community's budget. That loss doesn't disappear. It becomes part of our responsibility. Money that we have to find in order to maintain what we want and what our town should be looking like and what our lives should be experiencing. Our local officials are working diligently to navigate this crisis and lessen the impact that it might make. Ashland has become such a sought-after community for a reason. It's built on commitment, collaboration, and shared responsibility. Let's take a moment to support the people working on our behalf and come together as a community. And I encourage that everyone vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, is there anyone else that has any last questions?
Brandy, I just would like to add something.
Absolutely.
You know, I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight and everybody who's at home watching and maybe on YouTube, that we really appreciate the input and the suggestions, the ideas, the questions. We honestly do. We are all here because we are committed to this community and want it to be the best that it can be. Everybody has to make a decision. I can't make a decision for someone who is making choices, hard choices like we've heard, right? You have to make your own personal decision, and I don't think a person here would judge anyone for that. But it is our responsibility to bring forward what we think is the best plan for the community, and, you know, especially, I think, for our youngest members of our community. So that's what we're trying to do, and we want everybody to have all the information. We want to respond, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to any of us with questions and concerns, and we will do our best to make sure that you have answers. And, you know, we just appreciate your support, even if you can't vote yes. Thank you.
Jim, do you have anything else you want to add? Okay. Is there anyone else that wants to add anything?
Yeah, I just echo, thank you for everybody who participated or listened in. Also, this isn't your only opportunity to get information. You can all reach out to me. I intentionally didn't go into data and everything tonight, but we tried to be brief with a lot of things that are complicated and hard to understand. And this isn't your only bite at the apple. It's not, hey, listen to a 30-minute presentation and walk away understanding municipal and school financing. That's an impossibility. Feel free to reach out. We will have other opportunities to get more information. I have all the data you're going to want and lots you don't want for the schools. Happy to share with anybody. And I know these can be intimidating to talk and be recorded and everything like that. It's fine. Reach out. I'm happy to do it one-on-one, small groups or whatever. We want you to be educated. We want you to know the information so you can make your best decision.
Yeah, and likewise, and I think this will go directly to Deborah's point. So our budget document will be out by the end of next week. We have to wait until it all gets settled before we can put a budget together, and so that's what we'll be doing. And then also, we'll continuously drop more information just about the context, you know, looking over the years, over the course of April and May as well. We'll be doing that on a pretty steady cadence in addition to the budget document as well.
Okay, Lori, do you have anything you want to add?
Thank you, everybody, for coming. And I'm not offering Jim up without his permission, but I heard him say earlier, if anybody feels that their questions weren't answered about any of the school information, or we didn't cover something that you want to know more about, he's available. We're all available to answer your questions, but sometimes Jim's got the best handle on the budget book and would be happy to, as well as myself and all of my colleagues. We've been at this for a while. It's a very difficult conversation for all of us for a lot of reasons. But at the end of the day, you know, we want strong schools, we want strong services, We want strong public safety, we want the roads to be good, it's just gonna take a lot of effort and sacrifice from all of us to
And a
get there.
village.
So, yeah, it takes a village, so thank you for your time tonight.
All right.
And I will say, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have as well. Our team, our management finance team is relatively new, but we will certainly meet with you, and if we don't have the answer right away, we'll get it to you.
Yep, and feel free, I'll offer myself up too. Feel free to reach out to me. You can email me, bkinsman@ashlandmass.com, or literally any of us. So I just want to thank everybody as well for joining us tonight and for asking such really good questions and engaging with this, because we know that this is difficult. We know this is a big ask, and we don't approach an operational override lightly at all. And so, this is, as Paul said, this is sort of the beginning of the conversation. Look for opportunities for an info session, or an opportunity for, Select Board has office hours. Come talk to us about the budget. Come talk to us about your questions. If we can't answer it, we know who can, so we will direct those questions. Just a reminder that our website is going to have the slides from tonight, plus the link from the recording from WACA, plus the Q&A. And if any other questions come in, we're happy to add them to the website, because it's, we will get them answered and get them up. So again, the dates to remember for all of this: May 6th is town meeting, May 19th is town election. Make sure you're registered to vote, because that is the key to being able to vote. So, and with that, I just say thanks and have a really great night. Oh, we do have to adjourn. Motion to adjourn Select Board. We are in session.
Yeah, so done.
And we vote, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay.
Motion to adjourn the school committee.
Oh, second, yeah, here we go.
We're all in favor of that.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you all. Have a great night.